Hello, and welcome to the EDRM Global Webinar Channel. My name is Mary Mack. I'm EDRM's CEO and Chief Legal Technologist. Today's webinar is a collaboration with our trusted partner NextPoint called Solving the Small Firm Legal Tech Puzzle: How Small and Solo Firms Can Find and Leverage the Right Technology for Litigation. Our faculty experts are Brett Burney, Sonali Hansen, Anand Matthew, and Ashley Sundquist. We welcome your questions and feedback in the console. Questions will be answered both during and at the end of the webinar, and this webinar will be available for replay at your convenience for the next quarter, as are all of EDRM's webinars. Kaylee Wallstead, EDRM's Chief Strategy Officer, is here with us. Can you please share what resources are available today, Kaylee?
Absolutely, and we have been counting down the days for this important discussion that's so helpful for small to medium firms. We're also loving our On24 platform with so many more ways for you, our audience, to engage. If you check out your console to the right of the screen, you'll see a question mark icon. This is where you can type in your questions for today's faculty, and we highly encourage you to do so. Slides will be made available after the webinar has concluded, and if you click the paperclip icon, that's for related content. You'll see today's resources carefully curated just for you. You can download the On24 engagement tool descriptions to help you better engage with the platform. And then there's a link to learn more about EDRM's trusted partner NextPoint and their host of superior services. There's a link to schedule a demo with the experts at NextPoint. And then NextPoint in general has a lot of exciting things going on. You'll see a link to check out NextPoint and Tom O'Connor's collaboration, eDiscovery for the Rest of Us, a checklist manifesto. It is a fantastic resource, so be sure to order your copy of this book. And then save your seat for NextPoint's Part 2 webinar discussion on July 10th, eDiscovery for the Rest of Us author panel, Strategic Tips for Modern Discovery. And that is really a do not miss. Part 1 was highly, we received so many wonderful comments, and everyone said it was so helpful. So be sure to save your seat for that. And then NextPoint invites you to their live event in Chicago in July, Trial and Deposition Readiness Bootcamp. There's a link to click to learn more and register for their complimentary event. And then save the date for NextPoint's user conference on Point, September 18th and 19th in Chicago. So as I said, NextPoint's got it all going on. There's something for absolutely everyone. And then up next on EDRM's webinar channel, tomorrow, June 27th, Revolutionizing Document Review with Generative AI, Present and Future. So be sure to save your seat for that. And then speaker bios, you'll see the icon for that, can be clicked and popped up to learn more about today's faculty. And then just like Zoom, it's a feature we are loving. You'll see the smiley face emoji. And if you click on it, you'll see many more reactions that you can click during the webinar to let our faculty know that you're enjoying the content. And we highly encourage you to engage with them. You can give it a try right now. And Tom O'Connor, how about you click some? We're having a lot of fun with them on this platform. And then last but not least is the Twitter bird for social media. You can follow EDRM and NextPoint on LinkedIn. And back to you, Mary.
Thanks, Kaylee. And our faculty is absolutely stellar. First up, we have Brett Burney. Brett is an e-law evangelist for NextPoint. He's a lawyer, journalist, podcaster, speaker, and author on e-discovery and legal technology. With over 15 years' experience as an independent consultant for law firms and corporate legal departments of all sizes, Brett is an essential part of NextPoint's industry-defining thought leadership and educational content production, and he's co-project trustee for the EDRM 2.0 project. We're very grateful for that, Brett. Anand Matthew is the Vice President of Litigation Support of the NextPoint Law Group. He has Also, nearly 15 years experience with law firms of all sizes, drawing on his technology background. Anand is skilled at harnessing data to benefit his clients' positions, as well as keeping clients' costs down. He believes the practice of law is decidedly technology driven, and he's a fierce advocate for working efficiently to minimize client costs and maximize productivity. We are also thrilled to have Ashley Sundquist. She is the owner and attorney at Sundquist Law. Ashley started as a judicial clerk for the Honorable Sharon L. Gleason at the U.S. District Courts of the District of Alaska. After leaving the federal court, she worked in private practice at Ashburn and Mason, PC, on a wide variety of civil matters. Then she worked in-house for one of Alaska's largest telecommunications companies, where she negotiated various multi-million-dollar contracts and assisted the company in contract and employment matters. She now focuses her practice primarily on business civil legal matters and estates and trust litigation, and she's also a board member of the Alaska Institute for Justice. We also have Sonali Hansen. Sonali is the managing director at NextPoint Law Group. She's the managing director of the e-discovery services. With over 11 years experience in the legal field, she has deep experience at the intersection of law, data, and technology. She assists law firms across the country with complex discovery issues, including predictive coding, ESI protocols, data collection, data mining, collections, and productions. Sonali began her career as a mechanical engineer, then transitioned to the legal field to use her engineering background in patent law. She worked at JP Morgan Chase prior to joining NextPoint, and then NextPoint Law Group. What a group of faculty members, Brett. Without further ado, I hand the microphone to you.
Thank you, Mary. Wow, goodness. Just listening to Kaylee, like I didn't realize how much we really do have going on at NextPoint, but thank you. You know, that only took 30 minutes to go through all of that. But thanks for having us today. And thanks all of you for being here. We fully realize, obviously, that it's taking time out of your day to be with us and to go through. So before we get into some of the meat of the presentation that we wanted to cover today, just a quick brief overview of NextPoint in case you're not familiar with the company. We have been around for quite a while. Our founder and CEO, Rocky, started NextPoint all the way back in 2001. At the time, he was doing a lot of consulting projects for trial presentation and preparation. Eventually found that the platform he developed in a cloud-based environment could not only just be used for preparing for trial and for presenting exhibits, it could also be used for the discovery side of it. So over the years, NextPoint has made that transition to become a fully functional e-discovery platform. And it's really not just the discovery part. We still have tools that enable lawyers from firms of all sizes to better manage case chronologies, transcripts. We still even have the trial presentation component that's still in there, as well as a fully functional discovery or a document review platform that can help you everywhere from collection to review through all the way through production. And that's exactly what my friends and colleagues are on here to talk a little bit about today too. As Kaylee mentioned, and Mary as well, we were very excited to collaborate with Tom O'Connor, one of our good friends that has tirelessly been advocating for the mid-size and small firm law firms for many, many years and helping them better understand some of the technology tools that are available. Many years ago, Tom authored the book called E-Discovery for the Rest of Us. And we had an amazing opportunity to collaborate with Tom just a few months ago to rework the book, to update the book, and to republish the book with him and with NextPoint. This is an excellent resource. In fact, we've heard so much feedback from folks talking about how they use it really as a workbook on their desktop. You can go to nextpoint.com/book and get some more information and even find a way to get your own copy. I keep telling the folks every time I go to a conference and speak now, I give a book or two away, and people are just really, really enjoying the opportunity there. Thanks for listening to all of that. Let's get into some of the topics that we wanted to discuss today. And Ashley, we'd like to come to you first, and just generally talk about, we know because we deal with mid-sized law firms, smaller law firms all the time, and you got a lot of balls that you are juggling in the air as either a small firm or a solo practitioner. You're spinning a lot of plates. There's a lot of things going on, that one of them may be sort of on the technology side, but just give us maybe a flavor of why it might be important for even small law firms to take a little bit of time to understand how technology can not only make you more efficient in your day-to-day work, but maybe even more competitive in sort of this legal profession, as it were.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. So I am a solo practitioner. I started my practice just last fall, and I think now more than ever, it is so easy for anyone to just start a law practice pretty much overnight. And a lot of that is thanks to technology. So I think if you're not leveraging technology, you are falling behind. If you're not using AI, right, similarly, then you are not going to be as competitive as just about anyone else, right? So, some of the things that I use technology for, or AI as well, is, editing documents, summarizing documents. I even just started using ChatGPT for looking at financials. So I think there's, there are so many ways to use technology, and there's so many different ways or different sources for technology. I think it's also really helpful for organization. So I think you're able to organize how you want to organize. Everyone kind of has a different way of organizing documents or being able to find things that you're looking for. And so I think technology can help in that regard as well. And then something more recently, I think with automation, we're able to better communicate with clients. One of the number one reasons that clients will file a bar complaint against an attorney is for a lack of communication. And so automation allows us to send letters periodically, even if they're automated, right, to kind of continue to have that client interaction. And so I think it helps to be able to have a better communication and better contact with clients as well.
I was thinking about when you were talking about that, Ashley, like it's so easy today for folks to start up, their own company, their own firm. We have found, and I'd like to get your quick thoughts, that just being the availability of cloud-based tools, right, are just so easy. Because I remember the days when, people would come and ask, well, what kind of a computer should I get, to run this kind of software or that. But today I see folks probably in your position, Ashley, that they don't really care what kind of a computer that they have. I mean, even just that aspect there, I think, is kind of a lower hurdle, in the sense that if there are cloud-based tools available, like NextPoint, or maybe even Clio, or some of the others, for whatever you need, that it's easy just to get on, sign up, and get moving forward on that.
Exactly. And being having the cloud option, right, allows you to be completely paperless. So I really strive to have no paper files at all in my office, because I think that is easier to find what you're looking for to, right, on your computer, than digging through a big paper file to find what you need.
Well, and then even quickly, I would say a flip side of that too, Ashley, is the fact that if it's in the cloud, you can access it wherever you might be, right? If you need to access it from your phone or something. Excellent. Just real quick, I want to push in just a little bit on the Chat GPT or the AI, because I can almost hear people asking the question. It was like, well, is that secure? Is that something that you trust? But just in talking to you a little bit, I would think you would agree with the statement that I try to tell a lot of people. It's tools that are available, right? And just knowing that maybe it's not the be all and end all. Like it was as if you maybe had an assistant or an associate or somebody that could maybe start something, right? Or give you an idea of maybe how to summarize a document. Is that similar to the way that you are using some of the AI tools today?
Yes. So summarizing documents is a great way to use ChatGPT and AI. I mean, you do have to be careful, right? With any technology, there are pitfalls and things that you need to be aware of, especially in the legal realm. But I think that there are ways to be able to ensure that you are safe, right? But yeah, summarizing documents is a great way, or even uploading a document and saying, I'm looking for X, right? Sometimes we don't know the phrase, maybe it's in a deposition, we don't know the exact phrase, but it will be able to kind of help you locate that a little bit easier than just trying to do it yourself, scan through a document.
Thanks. Yeah, that's great. Hey, Anand, can I come to you because I knowing you and getting to know you over these years, that you've been at some big firms, you've been at some smaller firms of your own. What are some of your thoughts on just how to best utilize technology so that you're doing the best that you can with the resources that you have available, even as a midsize or a smaller law firm?
Yeah, sure, Brett. I started and ran a commercial litigation boutique with 5 attorneys, and for me, my biggest selling point to clients was my availability. That clients could always pick up the phone and be able to reach me. They weren't, when they were used to going to some bigger firms, they would call and would kind of bounce around from associate to associate. So the biggest advantage that I have, and my biggest marketing point, was my personal relationship that I developed with clients. For all of my clients, they'll pick up the phone anytime and call me, and I'll make time. I'll talk to you about the case. I'll be able to tell you everything that's going on in the case. I'm not going to be the partner at the top that doesn't know what the associates are doing. So in order to be able to do that, what I have to do is maximize my time, my availability. So that means I need to focus my time on talking to clients, doing legal research, doing the legal work, writing. What I can't focus on are all of the other things that come with running a small to mid-sized firm, like dealing with technology issues, dealing with vendors and the copier, and accounting and billing. But those are all things that every small firm owner has to juggle, and they can probably feel my struggle with that too. So using technology to help manage some of those things and take those off your plate is what I think is paramount here. And so that comprises, to me, 2 things. One, automation, like Ashley was talking about. There's so many things now that technology allows you to automate that you can completely take off your plate. Things, client communications, a lot of billing things, conflict checks, a lot of that stuff now can be automated through technology so that you can focus on the legal work. And I think the other way that technology helps a lot is outsourcing. So when you're a small or to mid-sized firm, the more things that you can outsource to other people, whether it's other people within your small firm or contractors that you hire or other people that you hire, the better. And so technology enables you to outsource things more efficiently, because the information that is, at one time was just on a server in your firm is now in the cloud and can be shared, selectively, securely with others, to be able to outsource some of your administrative tasks so that you can focus on doing the legal work for your clients and developing those personal relationships, which are really the key differentiators, I think, for a small firm.
I think that's such an excellent question and a great segue. And Ashley, we'll come to you on this because I want to hear your thoughts too. But Anand, you were making a great point. It's like you've got so many things that you are having to oversee and manage, even from an administrative standpoint. What are some of the best methods then that you used to kind of find the best technology, maybe vet the best technology? I know a lot of folks will tell me, well, I just don't have time to, try this tool and try that tool. What are some of the ways that you found were helpful when you were searching for a specific tool, maybe for document management or case management or anything else?
I'm the kind of person who likes to get my hands dirty, I guess. So I would make time, right? You got to make the time to vet the software. So I would ask for demos. I would ask to do a trial case or a test case. I'd get in the software and learn how to use it myself. And to me, that's the best way to evaluate, okay, what is the best use case for my needs? You can kind of look at the marketing materials and things like that, but until you kind of get into it and do sort of a demo or a test or a trial, it's hard to get a sense of would I be able to use this in my actual practice? Is this the right fit for me? So that's what I always tried to do. I obviously read reviews and things like that online, but I try to get into the software and get my hands dirty a little bit.
Well, one of the things that probably a lot of people don't know, and I know that Anand is a skilled computer programmer and a computer engineer in some of his background, so that doesn't surprise me. And I figured that was kind of got to be in your answer, Anand, and just doing that. Ashley, I don't know if that's the same for your background. You may not be as excited and jumping into some of the software. What are some of the ways that you have found maybe that are good for you to say, hey, maybe I should check out this tool, or asking some of your colleagues or other resources maybe when you're looking for a solution for your firm?
Yeah, I am not the dive in tech junkie. That is not my background. I usually really despise spending the time trying to figure out what I need, right? It's hard. It takes a lot of time. I am part of 2 Facebook groups that I have learned so much from. One of them is called Lawyering on the Beach, and the whole premise is to really lawyer from the beach and be able to use technology the best that you can. And so I will put that out to the group. The other one is legal. I think it's Legal Tech Collective. And so I will say, this is my practice area. This is what I'm looking for, and get feedback from the rest, the big community of attorneys to see what they're using, what they like, what they don't like. I also, if there's a program that I'm interested in, or a tech that I'm wanting to explore more, I usually will ask the company, is there somebody, a client of yours that I can talk to get more information? Because I think sometimes you can feel a little bit that the company is pitching and selling the product, but if you're able to talk to an actual client and they can relate to kind of your needs or what you're wanting, you can get a lot of helpful information that way too.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Most people that I've talked to when I was vetting technology are more than happy to send you to others that are using it, where you can talk directly to them about, what do they like about it? What do they not like about it? What do they wish it would do? And real life use cases. And that was always super helpful to me.
I just like the idea of you're using technology to find out more about technology, Ashley, right? You're going to the Facebook groups. And I feel like, there's multiple ways you could go about doing that, but really just kind of finding a community like that. I really think that's so incredibly useful. I know, for example, Kaylee mentioned that we're going to be hosting our user conference in September at NextPoint, and we get that kind of feedback from folks. Obviously, we're very focused just on the NextPoint and the litigation side, but they just like being able to come together and share ideas and thoughts and tips. And in fact, I even know I have attend CLEs or bar association seminars. Obviously, sometimes we have to do that. But I think it does help. It does help, right? That I know some people think, well, I got to go get my hours, but if maybe you can just turn that around a little bit and think, hey, what can I benefit from this? Right? There's an opportunity there that I could ask around what tools you're using, and on into your point. I think a lot of people, most of the time, are happy to share a little bit on that. Ashley, can I come back to you then and just, again, maybe just pushing just a little bit more in there. Are there some specific questions that you have found to be helpful? You guys have both shared some good stuff already, about maybe asking, is there a user that I can talk to, or a current firm that I can talk to, that's using the platform that can get some help? What are some of the things that you have found that, now that you've looked at some tools and maybe experienced some tools, that maybe I wish I would have known this earlier, or some of the questions that people can ask up front?
I think it's important to know what your needs are, right? Everyone is different. Even from practice to practice, every practice is completely different in how they're set up, what they're wanting, what maybe they have that a different technology they're using for a different piece of their work. And so really explaining, this is how I plan to use this product, because I think each person is going to have different needs and what they're wanting to see, and how the program could be more tailored to that individual. So I think really explaining, this is what I'm needing, this is what I'm planning to be using this product for. And then also understanding what your future is. Are you planning to grow? Or could you use the product for some other piece that might be beneficial later on? So I think understanding your needs is really, really important.
Yeah, that's That's great. Sonali, can I bring you in here just real quick, just simply because I know in some of the work that you do, even as general counsel at NextPoint, as well as all of your responsibilities at the NextPoint Law Group, what are some of the things that you have found that you think would be helpful if potential customers maybe for NextPoint could ask, or maybe some of that information that you like to share to folks when they're on the call to make sure that they've got a well-rounded picture of what they need to be considering for software?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, ultimately, what I always like to ask is what their existing workflows are and where their existing pain points lie. Usually, if there's something that they're working on that they feel like, God, there must just be a better way to do this, there usually is. So I feel like just kind of addressing that and just starting there is a really good spot when discussing with your vendors about whatever tools they might have, because then they can really tailor the conversation as well as the demo and the pitch deck, really specific to exactly what you need.
Yeah,
Brett, I have a couple things to add too.
Yeah, go ahead, Anand, please.
Yeah, sure. So a couple of things that I always try to ask is, is the software serverless? That was one of the goals when I was starting my law firm. Is I didn't want to maintain servers. I didn't want to deal with the security of it. So now there's a lot of serverless options of software that's in the cloud, and you have that option. And obviously, like Ashley was saying, I want to be able to access it from the beach. I don't necessarily want to be in the office. So that was definitely a question that I would ask. I would ask, to Sonali's point, in terms of workflow, how does this software integrate with the other technology tools that I'm using? So I don't necessarily want to have, one software that I'm using to review documents, another one that I'm reviewing transcripts with, another one where I'm putting my litigation case map together, something else for trial presentation. Or if I am, I want them to be, integrated and be able to talk together to reduce sort of the inefficiency of what I'm doing day to day in my cases. And then the third thing that I would ask is, how adaptable and scalable is this for large and small cases? In my practice, I had some huge, bet the company antitrust cases, and then I had smaller, breach of contract, employment, partnership disputes. And I need technology that can adapt to both situations. If I have a large bet the company type of case, I may have co-counsel, I may have contract attorneys working with me. I need to be able to scale the technology that I'm using to be able to accommodate that, right? So that my co-counsel can access my documents, so my contractors can access my documents. And for those types of large cases, I may need additional support. So I always ask the vendor, if I have one of these large cases, what can you guys do beyond the software to help me with that case? I may be a small firm and I'm going up a much bigger firm. It's not just the software. I need the support too for some of those larger cases. And some of those smaller cases, I may not need that. But I want to ask that question to be so that I know that this particular software can meet the needs of both my smaller cases and those bigger cases. Because if I get one of those bigger cases, an opportunity to pitch one of those bigger cases, I don't want to have to turn it down because I lack the resources. And so I should be able to use the technology to help me fill that gap.
That excellent points on it. Thank you so much. And I would say, just as you're talking about that from the services standpoint, I know just internally, that's one of the reasons that we were so excited to launch the NextPoint Law Group, right? It's one thing, and to your point as well, Sonali, I always say it's one thing for the software, right? But that's not where it ends. You have to understand the workflow. Where does a particular technology tool or software fit into your overall workflow? And when you do need some additional help, I don't think it's if, I think it's when, right? To your point, at some point, that it's going to grow and you're going to get a big case and you want to be able to take it. It's important to ask that. And I think I would just add on into what you said, have a good scenario in your head, right? Because I just find, if you ask a question like, hey, can you support me if it grows and big? Well, who's going to say no to that, right? Obviously, if there's somebody that's trying to sell something to you. But if you had a scenario, a specific scenario, you could push in a little bit more about how would you help? How would this look like? I think that would give you a little bit more comfort in some of that. So I think that's important. I see Sheila put in our Q&A box, which, by the way, anybody on the call today, feel free to put your questions in there. You can tell by now, these are folks that have been doing this. We're in the trenches. And so if you've got some questions that you would like to pose, please feel free to do so. But Sheila put a comment here, which I think is also something that I find important, is maybe ask about the training options, right? I know, again, a lot of people don't have time for training. They don't have time to put, they look at training as something that you're not going to get billed for. It's not billable time. And I get that. I do. But I have also always found that if you don't put in at least a little bit of time from the resources standpoint, then we get a lot of people that'll say, well, this doesn't work for us, right? Or this isn't the greatest tool. And we find once we ask the questions, it's just simply because you may not have been able to take the time to learn exactly the best way, the best practices maybe about some of that. So I would ask about your training resources. I know here at NextPoint, we've put a lot of time and resources into developing, not just like the support site that you can go and read, but also some videos to go along with it, and just trying to be really helpful. And then even from the support aspect as well on that. So I don't know if anybody wanted to make a comment on that, but I just know from my standpoint, that's always something that I'm passionate about, just making sure people are educated and from the get-go that they have the best practices on how to go about it.
Yeah, and I was just going to add that one other thing that I like to ask is, how accessible are you after I sign up, right? Sometimes you feel like you sign up and then you have a really hard time communicating after if you have a problem. And so understanding what that process looks like, am I able to call? Is it a chat? How easily can you get the information that I need if I have a problem, or if I have a question about how to use a certain aspect of the technology?
Yeah, great point on that. Even just a simple chat box. Sometimes, that's appropriate and that works. That you can just type in a quick question. I've used that many, many times. And frankly, most of us are used to doing that today. But sometimes you do need to make sure you can pick up the phone and call somebody and have them walk you through it. That kind of a thing is important as well. Let's go a little bit more specific now. I think up to this point, we've been doing a great job of maybe talking about from a more general perspective about technology, vetting technology for a small firm or a mid-sized firm. But let's get a little more specific into maybe litigation technology, something that we know quite a bit at NextPoint, as well as why we are excited to partner with EDRM, in the sense that we like to provide sort of this educational content to help people better understand what their options are out there. Anand, let's go to you, because I know most people may not know that Anand was actually a NextPoint customer at his firm before he came on board to the NextPoint Law Group. So I know he's got some really good insight into actually using technology from a discovery standpoint for document review, as well as Ashley as well. But Anand, let's start with you. What are some specific pieces of technology that are useful for the discovery phase in litigation today?
One of the challenges that smaller firms had, one of the challenges that I had was dealing with cases that have a large volume of documents. Like I said, I did a lot of antitrust cases, so we would have cases that have millions of documents involved, right? And they're produced by the other side, and we have to go through them. I don't have a team of associates that I can just kind of set loose on this, million documents and pick out what's relevant. So, and my clients, frankly, don't want to pay that either. So what do I do? The ultimate goal in that type of situation, when you're faced with a large document review, is how do I find what is relevant and key to my case, and how do I do that without going through and putting eyes on every document. So there are kind of three main strategies that you can use to do that. One is, running targeted search terms based on the key issues in your case. And that's sometimes can be an art, right? To come up with the right types of search terms. It's not always as simple as just typing in, a couple words from the discovery request. It really is an art and a science to being able to put together the right types of search terms to find what you're looking for. And it's an iterative process. Often, you run the search terms once, you get the results, start going through them, you kind of add more search terms, maybe take some out. And it's not always, what I found is it's not always just running search terms on, specific keywords. A lot of it is analysis of the metadata that's been produced and filtering and searching that. And you can get some really good insights into the specific subsets of documents that you want to look at just by not even running the search term, just looking at the metadata. Actually, I was on a call this morning with a client where they had, I think it was like 300,000 docs produced to them by the other side. And they wanted to know, where should I start? And I said, well, let me look at the metadata first. Let me do an analysis of the metadata. I pulled from the metadata, here are the locations of the employees that they pulled from. Is there a particular employee you want to look at first? And they said, yeah, actually there is. And so I pulled that set first. So that's not a keyword that I'm running. I'm looking at the metadata, doing some kind of analysis and prioritizing what is the subset of documents I want to look at first. So, that's the first strategy, is doing some kind of filtering or searching analysis of the metadata. Second strategy that I've used a lot is using a document review team to do a first pass. This is something that a lot of smaller firms are a little bit nervous about doing because, frankly, to the point I said earlier, the clients are hiring me because they know they can always reach me. They have that personal relationship with me. I was hesitant at first to kind of outsource my work to a document review team to do the first pass. But my experience with using them has actually been really great. The way that I've typically done it is I write a pretty detailed memo of a background of the case, the specific things that they should be looking for. They go through the documents, do a first pass at very efficient rates, and are able to flag not only what might be helpful to my case, but also tag the specific issues that I give them. And then there's a lot of QC involved, and then I am able to QC it as well. And what I've found is that is a really efficient way of going through a mass number of documents and not only tagging what might be helpful, but also tagging it to specific issues as I'm directing them. And it's like having a team of associates on demand, I guess. So I've had really good experiences with doing that document review first passes. And like I said, it really is a cost-efficient way of getting through documents. And the third is using something like AI or TAR or deduplication, near deduplication, those kind of technologies to reduce the subset of documents that you have to review. That can be useful in a variety of different contexts, depending on what you're looking for. Again, actually, I was in another call this morning where we have a client that's going to trial, and they have their exhibit list that we submitted to the other side. We got the other side's exhibit list, and now we have to go through these two exhibit lists and identify which ones are going to be the joint exhibits. So he's going through the exhibits literally one by one and trying to figure out the duplicates, which is a really difficult process because, you have the same document maybe that was produced in discovery and it was used at 3 people's depositions and things like that. And now we have features like near deduplication that we can just run across this data set of the 2 exhibit lists and instantly flag, like, here are the documents that are near duplicates of each other, regardless of whether it has an exhibit sticker on it or some handwriting on it. And it enables us to really quickly perform that task that used to be just literally a manual task of going through each exhibit one by one and trying to kind of match up what might be a duplicate. So those are the 3 strategies I employ. But again, the ultimate goal is, how do I not look at every document? How do I just relatively quickly and relatively efficiently pull together from this large subset, a much smaller subset that I can then put eyes on and review.
Listening to you go through those 3 options there on it, it reminds me of what you were just talking about, looking for serverless technology options, right? Because I remember just a few years ago, if you wanted to try one of these options, it could or possibly require like a lot of setup, right? Or put it into a different tool or all kinds of other things. And I just like to kind of go back and underline that point of, like, today with cloud-based technology, that it just really is more of a strategy decision on what's going to be the best decision here, the best option for you and for your client, versus having to think about maybe the technical logistics, I think, all the time. I mean, certainly having a cloud-based tool that we can support all of those.
Especially when you have, like these, when you're a solo practitioner, what I've found is a lot of solo practitioners, have their own practice, but they have kind of various affiliations or partnerships with other solo practitioners, so that if they have a large case, 2 or 3 of them might team together on a large case, and having that ability to share your case with other people that are helping you is critical, I think. And like to your point, without a lot of setup and hurdles that you have to jump through to be able to do that.
Right, right. Ashley, I think Anand did a great job of laying out some of the different options there. Just wondering, is that something similar to what you have found? Do you take a little bit of a different approach, specifically when it comes down to the document review and the discovery functions in the matters that you've worked on?
Yeah, I think Anand covered it very well. I have used AI to summarize documents, or technology to kind of help locate information that I'm looking for in documents. I also think, and Anand touched on this a little bit, that if you do outsource, which I have done before, it's really important to give as much information and detailed information about the case and about specifically what you're looking for you to feel comfortable to kind of give up that control of going through it yourself. But it's so valuable, and if it gives you more time to be able to do other things, right, especially as a solo or small firm, you need to be able to kind of be in a lot of places at one time. And so trying to delegate, especially document review, if it's a significant number of documents, is a great way to be able to get a lot of that time back. And so if you can delegate and outsource, that's a great way to be able to do that.
Yeah, and again, I keep coming back to this theme, I guess, but even just having a cloud-based platform, and I know you do this quite a bit, that whether you're using, working with co-counsel somewhere, a local counsel, or whether you have a small team that's doing first pass, the fact that you can go and check, right? And to your point, that you can do what we usually call it quality checks, right? I can see, did somebody code this document correctly? How far have they come with a certain review batch? And I know I've even been able to check a lot of that from my phone, for example, just to make sure that things are progressing the right way. And again, I think having the right technology tools in place just kind of help smooth that process along, right? It just takes out that extra frustration. Like, well, I have to wait till I get back to the office to check that we can do that even from an iPad today or something similar. And I think that that's important. Sonali, can I just ask you about that last option there? Because we've talked about AI and some TAR, and I know the work that you have been doing at NextPoint, the NextPoint Law Group, with utilizing some of our own tools that we have been offering and providing for customers today. Just some quick tips on what should people be thinking about in utilizing that technology, and maybe how can that streamline a document review, for example? How can that help folks when they're thinking about some of these technologies?
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like if you're using something a little bit more on the traditional side of TAR or predictive coding, which I know is a fairly industry known terminology, I think a great use case for that is when that number one bullet here with the search terms is not an option. Oftentimes you have a set of documents, it's a massive set of information, whether you got data dumped from opposing counsel or whether it's just the nature of the claim. And you just don't know where to start. You don't have an understanding as to the documents to actually even formulate those search terms, as Anand was saying, which can often be an art form and kind of creating. So if that's the case, I think some form of automation around technology to kind of help start generating some of that logic can be really in your best interest. In doing so, however, I think it's always really important to note that this isn't your easy button. This isn't one of those things where you kind of let the computer do the work and call it a day, don't set your eyes on anything, and then just rely on that technology to really make those determinations on your behalf. The computers, as much as we would like to think, are not going to replicate the true kind of human mind and some of that logical thinking when thinking through certain documentation. So I think as targeted as you can be when utilizing AI or TAR, also understanding the security and privacy risks that are often involved with utilizing that as well, especially when it comes to generative AI and looking through the open source tools versus things that are more secure in nature, especially because we're in the area of law. I think are always going to be a really important assessment to make. And then if you are kind of utilizing it from the specific document review sphere, then making sure that you're not just looking at it as oh, okay, I just want the TAR to identify all of my hot documents for me. That is so broad in terms of a document could be hot for more than one reason. So really identifying things that have some sense of repeatability or some sense of kind of, identifiable logic that can be placed, or that can replace kind of the human mind. So if you're looking at it in the sense of, I want all documents consolidated that identify a damages claim, that has, certain commonalities around the people, places, and things in the context of the documents involved that the algorithm can pick up on when identifying what types of documents might fit in that category. So I think it's always important to kind of think that through and get an understanding as to, can this be recreated from a computer logic system, or is this something that we're digesting in kind of more of that human mind aspect? And is that kind of the necessity to identify these types of documents, and kind of identify two different groups of that and offset one and kind of maintain the rest as your actual own kind of linear review?
That's great. Thanks, Sonali. Saul from the audience had a good question here, and I'd like to get your feedback on this. Maybe Ashley, I'll come to you in just a moment. What's the appropriate technology that maybe somebody that's getting ready to start in litigation can first start using? And it occurred to me, maybe we just kind of take this for granted because we work in this space, but I was also on a client call this morning, Anand, and it was with a very small firm that they started asking me, like, how can we sort all of these documents that we've received from the other side? And I guess I just almost thought, took it for granted that they had it in a database already, but they didn't. It was like several thousand PDF files that they just had stored in a folder. And they were struggling with, how do we filter this? How do we sort this? How do we search this all together? And it just made me think, and Saul, I don't know if this is your question specifically, but just I think starting with even a simple database, which is really what at the core of document review databases, such a platform such as NextPoint, are really doing, right? It's giving you a place to first of all securely store all of these evidentiary documents or files that you've collected maybe from your client or you receive from a production from the other side. And it's really just being able to put it into a place where you can search everything, just like we've talked about. You can sort it by chronologically maybe, or sort by different names, filter it out. And I guess I just want to start from the beginning, Anand and Sonali, and even Ashley too. I know we just sort of take that for granted as maybe like that's where you should start, but there might be some people out there that that aren't even to that point, right? And just having an understanding of what are some of the basics that a platform like NextPoint can provide for you. Anand, I'd like to hear what you think about that, because I know maybe folks just don't realize that there is those options there.
Yeah, I mean, to Ashley's point that I think she mentioned earlier, I mean, one of the great things about technology is that you can really start a law firm overnight, and you don't need a lot of software to be able to do so. I mean, the two things that I think you really need are some kind of practice management system to do your time tracking and billing, and some kind of document management system to make sure that your files in the case are organized. Whether that's the court pleadings, the discovery, the documents that you're going to get from the other side. I mean, that's where all of your actual case files are going to be. So that has to be a software that is storing them securely, a place where the files are accessible, and a place where you can organize it, search it, pick out whatever you need to do to identify these are going to be the key pieces of evidence in my case, so that I can use them at a deposition, in your summary judgment brief, and a trial. And so NextPoint really fills that document management case evidence system. That's what it's designed to do, right? It's designed to house your case documents so that you can search it, so that you can organize it, so you can tag it to specific issues, to the key people in your case. You can create the chronology. You can put the deposition transcripts in there. It's your evidence repository, so that as you progress from the very start of your case all the way until you get to trial, your documents, your transcripts are all in one place. And as you go through the case life cycle, you're building up your case, adding evidence to this issue, adding a person to the timeline, you're progressing, we call it progressive case building, right? At the very beginning, you just have a bunch of documents. You don't know what's going to go where. And as you progress through the case, you start fitting in the documents to start completing the puzzle so that by the time you get to trial, you have everything organized. You have all of your evidence for each element that you're going to ultimately present. And having the technology to help you house all those documents, organize it, and slot it in the appropriate places was really key.
Ashley, how would you explain to someone that may be asking, for something to help them on their discovery side? How would you explain like the basic function of maybe a platform like NextPoint?
I think that NextPoint is really great for being able to, like Anand was saying, organize documents, find what you're needing, prepare you for any sort of hearing, a deposition, trial. It's a great way to be able to really stay organized, and even in court, right? Where sometimes you're nervous, you're trying to find the document that you need. It maybe wasn't something that you were necessarily prepared for, but oh no, here it is, this issue's coming up and you're trying to find it. It's a way to be able to stay like very organized and be able to go, oh no, I know exactly where this is. I can find the document I'm looking for. So I think NextPoint is really great for that feature.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Ashley. That's great. Sonali, we've been talking about document review, which is usually like many thousands of documents or files that we're having to look at, whether it's relevant or not, or privilege. But we know, obviously, with NextPoint, we go a little bit beyond that. And Anna, you've done a great job of kind of illustrating the fact that it's not just about the documents. Where you're constantly preparing, you're thinking ahead, maybe to the trial. What are some of the other components or resources that not just NextPoint can provide, but what some folks should be thinking about that are above and beyond just the document review piece, Sonali?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important, kind of also piggybacking off of Saul's question, to know exactly where you stand in terms of your immediate need when you are kind of scoping out those options for yourself. So oftentimes I feel like when people come to us or our clients come to us, it's because they have a specific need in mind, right? I mean, I'm the number one procrastinator, so I know how it goes. You keep telling yourself, I really should get something. I should really get something to get all of this organized. But until that immediate need occurs, you might not actually kind of go and put that effort into that shopping around. So when that immediate need is there, have an understanding as to exactly where in the case you lie. So that's always one of the number one questions we ask during the sales cycle. Exactly what phase of litigation are you in? And oftentimes, they're past that discovery phase. And so now they're really prepping for depositions. They're actually preparing for trial or mediation or arbitration, whatever it might be. They've isolated what it is that they actually need, and they need to kind of apply that in a little bit more of a comprehensive manner. So some of the things that I think NextPoint does really well as there are other platforms out there that, a lot for those remote depositions and hearings. And that's one of those things that I think, especially within small firms, we've been just seeing a huge escalation for. In-person depositions are expensive. They also take a lot of time out of an individual's day to actually, from a logistics standpoint and things like that. And if you're, let's say in Ashley's situation, a solo practitioner, you can't be in two places at once, right? So to have the ability and to kind of have the resources that are necessary around the potential for a remote deposition is huge. And I think not only does that save on costs, but it really helps kind of the practicality with limited resources involved. So kind of vetting out and making sure that whatever platforms or vendors that you're discussing have the ability to kind of support that, or even support the end result of that remote deposition, where you can take the video and the transcript and link it all together and still be able to kind of mark out your designations and get those video clips maybe all in one sweep, can be really, really a huge time save through that entire scope of it. I think we're switching over to the phase where, this is the great visual for this. Like, this is a snippet view from NextPoint specifically, where you have your transcript in one spot, You can have the video synced alongside that if there is a video also that corresponds with it. And then all of your exhibits link up automatically as well. So you can just click right into exactly which documents are being referenced to the course of that entire transcript. So again, just kind of keeping everything all in one spot, keeping it super organized, and really leveraging the tool in the best way for your workflows, I think really make a huge difference.
And I've heard you talk about this quite a bit in utilizing NextPoint, and basically, I think the way I like the way that you put it quite a bit is using it to maybe help tell the story, right? Help tell your story when you are preparing for a litigation. Any other comments on utilizing some of these other tools above and beyond just the review tools that NextPoint provides?
Yeah, I would highly recommend using software to manage transcripts. I think there are a lot of firms, not just small firms, large firms, that use software only focus on the documents. But when you get to trial, your case story is not going to be told by the documents. It's going to be told by people. It's going to be told by people telling the events of the case from various vantage points, and the documents will support what the people are saying, but the testimony is really, really important. And you know, I would say the majority of firms maybe just look at transcripts, you know, in PDF form, and they're highlighting the PDFs. But you know, if 2 people or 3 people are working on the case, they can't necessarily see what I've highlighted, and I can't see what they've highlighted. It's hard to collaborate. So using a transcript management software, something like NextPoint, lets you not only search all the transcripts, but actually code pieces of the testimony to specific issues in your case, so that if you're looking for, I need to see all the testimony on the conspiracy, you can pull that up really quickly. If you're at trial and you're cross-examining the other side's witness, you can pull up impeachment testimony very quickly. It makes the organization and the telling of your story just so much easier and more efficient, which is, you know, the goal, I think, of using technology to bolster a small firm and let you compete with firms in time.
It sounds like, Ashley, that this falls right in line with maybe some of your experience, right? I just like the way you mentioned that you're in court, you're in a trial, and somebody surprises you with a different document or exhibit, and you have to be able to pull that up. And you want to have that confidence that you can pull that up, right, when you need it. Have you been able to utilize some of these tools above and beyond just the document review as well?
I have. Yeah, I think that the marking system, and that may not be the correct term that you guys use at NextPoint, but the way to designate and mark documents, a transcript, testimony, is a great way to be able to quickly locate the information that you're needing kind of on the spot. So it's a great tool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And Sonali, I know you even mentioned just the capability of pulling in a video. So often today that could be even more powerful. I think, Anna, to your point, is like you got to have people telling the story, right? And if you have video of a deposition and being able to bring that in, that can be really effective. Looking at body language, for example, or when somebody hesitates before they answer a question. I mean, from a strategy perspective, I think that can be really helpful as well. And again, I think, Sonali, to your point, you know, just thinking ahead in some of this or thinking of a broader level can, I think, make you even more effective going forward.
Definitely.
Excellent. Well, I know we're coming to the end of the time, so how about I just wrap up? You folks are willing and happy. You can throw some questions in. You know, just one question. I'll just go back. Harvey asked, it was a little while ago, but I think it's very on point and appropriate for what we're talking about today. Was just like, wouldn't it be great if there could be maybe one place where people could go, legal professionals could see, like, compare all of these tools for me. Harvey, I see that you mentioned the ABA guide, which I'm very familiar with. I've written on those guides before, and you're right, they're fairly generic. I don't know if they are quite helpful enough. You know, it's very hard to find, I think, some trustworthy resources. I know that Connor, our colleague at NextPoint, answered there, going to some sites like Capterra or G2. Those are very, very generally based sites, but they receive a lot of input from a wide variety of folks. So at the very least, it could be somewhere to go and to look at. EDRM is another great resource as well. There's a lot of trusted partners with EDRM, and I think that's a great place to start on there as well. But if anybody else has any other questions, you're welcome to put it in. Just want to remind everyone, you can certainly go and check out the book from Tom O'Connor and NextPoint, eDiscovery for the rest of us. You can just visit nextpoint.com/book and find some more information. We also have a guide to small firm eDiscovery strategies. It goes over a lot of what we've just discussed. So does Tom's book as well. But here's another great free resource for you, nextpoint.com/small-firm, and you can get a copy of the guide to small firm eDiscovery strategies as well. Anand, Sonali, and Ashley, thank you so much for joining me today. I thought this was really a great, insightful, helpful webinar. And thanks all of you for joining us today. Mary, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Brett. And we thank our trusted partner, NextPoint, for making you, Anand, Solani, and Ashley available for this educational and thought-provoking discussion. Our thanks to the EDRM community for your kind attention and those emojis, because if you really enjoyed today's presentation, show Brett, Anand, Solani, and Ashley some love.
There's a lot of emojis there, Mary. This is great.
It's happening. They're at the resources at the bottom of your console. And if you really love it, don't forget to click the link to schedule a meeting with the experts at NextPoint. And we will see you next time on the EDRM Global Webinar channel. Thank you.